been asked the question a few times recently, can I learn English? And how can I learn English better? Um, Everyone can learn English, everyone can learn any language. There's a few myths, a few things that people say. Firstly, I don't have talent for languages. What that generally means is I can't speak any languages and I don't think I can. It's not true. Everyone can learn a language just the same. Some people have a natural advantage. If you're a teacher, then you tend to know the words for grammar, things like adjective, noun, verb, and you understand what they mean and how they fit into a sentence, but it doesn't mean that if you're not a teacher you can't learn language. The same as people who are students, they're also generally better at learning because they're used to learning. They learn at school, so learning another thing for them, it's just something natural. And people who already know another language, they can use a lot of vocabulary from that other language, and they've been through the process before. So I don't have talent for language often just means I haven't been at school for a long time and I haven't learnt a language before, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. Second thing people say is, I'm too old. It's not true. I read somewhere that 95-year-olds have 97% of the brain capability for learning that you do when you're 25. I'm not sure how true that is because these scientific studies change every week, but I've taught a lot of older students, 50s, 60s, 70s, and it's really a matter of if you want to do it. It doesn't make any difference if you're younger or older to me. The last one is I don't have time. Worst excuse ever. It's not true. What that means is I don't really want to. If you want to do something, you can always find time to do it. And learning a language doesn't have to take a great amount of time. It just takes a little organisation, the same as learning anything else. So when people ask me how do I learn better and how do I learn at home, I always say the same thing, which is just 10 minutes a day. Or 15 minutes if you can manage it. I think everybody can find 10 minutes a day. And if you add that up over the week, you're doing 70 minutes. It's an extra lesson. Apart from what you'd have with the teacher, maybe 1-2 hours a week with the teacher, you're giving yourself an extra lesson by doing just 10 minutes a day. And basically, people say, why don't I get better? Well, time equals progress. It's that simple. Every single person I've met who's put in the time and put in the work with the language gets better. Sometimes you level off a bit and you can't really break to the next level, but if you put in the time, you will get better. I haven't met any students who after 10 hours of teaching are perfect, and I haven't met any students who after 1,000 hours of learning are terrible. It's pretty simple. Time equals progress. Mistakes people make, thinking that having lessons with a teacher once or twice a week is enough. It's not. When you're with a teacher, they're leading the lesson, they're telling you what you're learning, and also you're receiving a lot, but you're not creating. If you're with a good teacher, you are, but you still need to go away and do it for yourself in your own private time. You know, it doesn't have to be formal homework, but learning with a teacher will maintain your level. It will maybe progress you a little, but you need to do work outside the classroom. The second mistake would be people not practicing all the skills. There's listening, speaking, reading and writing as the 4 basic skill areas, and people will focus upon one thing. They'll just listen to the radio, or they'll just read articles, but they won't then be practicing the speaking section or the writing section. You have to practice all of these skills to make progress. Also, being too hard on yourself. A lot of students I know focus on the things they don't know and they get upset about that. It tightens them up and they don't believe they can learn and they get discouraged. They feel bad about what they can do. Think about what you can do. Think about the positives. Learning a language begins from zero. It's not like other skills where Mathematics, we've all got some basic skills, and if you start learning maths, you're adding to the base that we all already have. Sometimes with a language you start from zero, and every word you can say is something you've learned. So think about it as wonderful progress rather than, oh God, I don't know that word, I can't remember it, I'm so stupid. Don't be hard on yourself. Okay, what works best? 10 minutes a day, in my opinion, is enough, and it's a great way to learn. It's not too stressful. We've all got busy lives. Most people I know have got busy lives anyway. And most of us find it difficult to find half an hour, 1 hour regularly to actually concentrate on learning. But we can all find 10 minutes. Break it down into small parts. When you look at a language, to get past elementary level, people will say you need 500, maybe 1,000 words. Pre-intermediate, another 500. Upper intermediate's 2,500, I've heard, something like this. If you think I've got to learn 2,500 words to be good at this language, you're going to think, oh God, 2,500 words, I can't learn it all, I can't do all of that. But if you break it down into smaller pieces, lists of 10 words, put them on the wall in the toilet. Every time you go into the toilet, you sit down, you look at 10 words, you learn them. Build those 10 and another 10 and another 10. You're going to have 100. It's a lot easier to learn 10 small lists of 10 words than it is to learn one list of 100. The other thing I would say would be to learn things in groups. A lot of teachers write words on the board. Canoe, apple, dog. Those three things are not connected. The students are not going to remember it. And you won't remember it if you write in your notebook those three words together. What you will remember though is if you write dog, cat, mouse, and a list of other animals and learn them together, you'll learn them in groups. And learn groups of words and words that you will use. I've interviewed teachers before who said, my greatest skill and the thing I like doing the most is teaching people those English words they rarely use, that are really unusual. And my answer, my response to that is always, why? Who does that help? Why learn something you're not going to use, that other people don't use, that other people who are not native speakers, and even some native speakers, are not going to understand? Learn things which are practical, which are useful, and which are useful to you. If you're an accountant, learn accountancy English. Learn those words you use in your job every day. If you're a sportsman, learn some sports. Learn things that you are going to use. Don't learn 15 different words for moving a boat, punting. Who needs that word? Learn things that are practical. Use technology. There's a lot of technology out there. You can video yourself. You can record yourself. But you can also use things like translators on the telephone nowadays. You can take hundreds of tests on the internet. You can watch hundreds of videos on the internet like this one. There's books, there's ebooks. Use as much technology as you can. It's a lot easier to learn a language now than ever before. When you're using translators and things though, try to do it yourself before you use the translator. It's nice to have Google Translate, things like that, but you're not learning if you write it in your own language, translate it to English, and then just read what's written in English. Try and do it yourself. See what your version looks like. If you're not confident, use the translator and look at the two. But you learn from trying to do it yourself first time. Okay. Learn the basics well. If you make a mistake early on and you don't correct it, and you keep saying it and you keep saying it, it becomes a bad habit. And it's a lot easier to break a bad habit at the beginning than it is when you've been saying it for months or years, and then a teacher says to you, 2 years after you started learning that you shouldn't say, I haven't a car. I don't have a car, I haven't got a car. I meet lots of students who carry over very basic mistakes from the beginning because they haven't corrected them at the start. They haven't looked and checked that the basics are good. Get the basics right and everything else is a lot easier. And it's very difficult to get rid of an old mistake that you've been making hundreds of times before. And there's a scientific reason for this, that if you want to learn anything, I read some studies that suggest that to learn vocabulary, you need to say a word 33 times. The first 32 times it's difficult to remember the word. It gets easier every time to pronounce it properly, to recall it instantly. But the 33rd time, not every time of course, but as a general rule 33, it's easy. You need to repeat things over and over again until they become natural, which works in a good way, but it also works in a bad way if you're repeating a mistake, because your mistake becomes instant. Just the same as learning something well becomes instant as well. So, what to do? Read books, watch films. Any access you have to a language that you're learning is good. I learnt something the other day from reading a bottle of air freshener. I learnt a new word in Polish. Language is everywhere and we can learn everywhere. And we don't have to do it in 1 hour of intensive learning. If you learn 1 word a day, that's 365 a year. If you're talking about learning 500 new words to break to the next level of language, then from just learning 1 word a day, you're very close to going up to the next level after 1 year of just learning 1 word a day. Put it in small pieces and have fun. Don't be hard on yourself. Last thing I'd say is be creative with your examples. If you say you want to learn the words dog, car and holidays, don't write down I like dogs, I like cars, I like holidays, because they're not memorable sentences. Write something you'll remember. Write a more descriptive thing about a dog. Write about a dog you've had. Write about a holiday you've been to that you will remember. You're not going to remember it just because it's connected to the word like, especially if you've got 50 other examples, all with that same sentence. So be creative, learn the basics well, and then just do 10 minutes a day of anything. Reading, writing, listening, doesn't matter what it is. 10 minutes a day is enough.